Hello everybody, welcome to Eternal Brews. My name is Pojo, and it's Brenn Week, or I'm hoping it's going to be Brenn Week. What we're planning to do is we're going to try and record as many videos as possible with the new card, Brenn, Chronicler of Ages, our 2-cost 1/3 that whenever you play a spell the first time on your turn, you get +1 power and then increase that ability by 1 in Praxis. We like this card a lot. I'm really excited by this design. There's a lot of fun stuff to be built with this. And we're going to get into some of the more obvious ones, including the Moment of Creation deck and potentially some other interesting shenanigans. We're definitely going to fiddle around with a lot of different concepts. But I wanted to show off one in particular that we've been really having fun with and kind of just needed Brenn to come along and help the deck out. So let's go ahead and go into it. This is Accelerate. All right. Now, the basic idea behind this deck is that we are trying to build out some amount of fairly aggressive and fairly disgusting mid-range units with attack triggers, which is to say cards that when they attack by surprise do extremely good things and can essentially have very significant board impact just for attacking. So we have a couple that are specifically in mind, specifically the engine cards, Jotun Feastcaller and Worldbearer Behemoth, both of which when they attack get a really good ability and then increase that ability by 1. So the longer that they can stick on the board after attacking, the better off they are. So what we're going to do here is we're going to make sure that these cards get at least 1 attack in, and then we're also going to just basically be very aggressive with them. They are big, sticky cards. How are we going to do that? Well, we're going to use Accelerate. So this card has been in the game since set 1. It's one of the worst commons in set 1. It is very, very hard to use. There's not a lot of stuff that you can actually trigger it with. We've been looking for cards to work with it for quite some time, and I've actually been building around a couple of decks lately that really, really kind of like it. And one of the things that is sort of good about it is that we can use it specifically to give Worldbearer Behemoth and Jotun Feastcaller charge. And that's pretty much all that Accelerate does. It gives a unit in your hand charge and allows you to sneak attack with it whenever you want to. Now, the reason why this works so well in this deck is because we'll typically have Brenn, Chronicler of Ages down on the field if we are feeling pretty lucky. If this guy sticks for more than 1 turn, if he manages to get a Torch or a Seek power or a Find the Way or anything to get that +1 power, then on turn 5, when we have our particular card set up, we can Accelerate, get the charge, and then immediately pop out with a unit by surprise. That's exactly the kind of surprise attack we're looking for. So this will allow us to get the attack trigger off of Worldbearer Behemoth or Jotun Feastcaller. Jotun Feastcaller's attack trigger will redraw a card and give us a little bit of extra stuff back, and Worldbearer Behemoth will play out power and get us some card advantage in that fashion. To top it all off, we have Curiox, Insatiable, Seeker at the top. 3 of these guys, whenever they attack, if they hit an enemy player and you have 5 or more spells in your void, cards like, say, Accelerate, you will have you'll create and draw a Dragon's Eye. That is, of course, the card that gives you 3 extra cards for free whenever you play it. Okay, so this is a really exciting card to be building around. We don't play around too much with the relic bonus that Curiox gets. There's an infinite Hourglass in this deck to enable Curiox and basically take the opponent by surprise. But for the most part, this guy's going to be a 5/5 flyer with a really, really good ability. And if we can get the Accelerate on him late in the game, then we can actually get a really sizable amount of cards and just fill the board with nasty mid-range threats. There are also some of the standard nasty mid-range threats. We have Heart of the Vault and Sandstorm Titan. I'm running 3 of these. I tried it at 4. I didn't want it at 0 because Sandstorm Titan is a card that actually does fill out the deck quite a bit. And I liked it at 4. Usually always run 4 of these, but I was just having some issues with Sandstorm Titan's general Nambo, which is to say that he does disable Curiox and a couple of other flyers in the deck and make it a little hard to get the Accelerate charge thing going on. And there was just the way the meta was shaking out, I just wasn't having quite as much fun with him. I really needed to take the numbers down just a little bit. But Sandstorm Titan, you generally want in any sort of mid-range deck. He's just very, very useful, and we want him here just specifically to help us out against aggro decks. Okay, some of the other cards that are in the deck are, of course, Reliquary Raider to fix things up and give us, like, not only extra card draw, a potential accelerate target, kind of a weak one, but an okay one, and also the ability to block and gain life against aggro decks. This can be really, really solid against a lot of the, basically anything with fire in it. It defends against Oni Ronins and Pyro Knights, it defends against the 1/2 Yeti, Snowcrest Yeti, so anything along those lines, this card is actually really, really good for stabilizing you in health, so it's good on defense, and then on offense, if your opponent is playing control, this card does an entirely different job. It's a really, really powerful card, and it's also a card that you can play typically right after playing Brenn while following up with like a torch or something like that. This card really, really curves well with Brenn and should be played in the same deck most of the time. Okay, beyond that, we have Xenan Initiation, which gives our units +1/+1 and Killer. This one's a little bit harder to use to activate our engines, but it is another way that we can play down an engine and immediately get a beneficial effect. So if we want to, we can play a Worldbearer Behemoth on 7 and play it for 5, give it Xenan Initiation, and give it +1/+1 and Killer. However, this card also allows us to interact with some of the smaller aggro decks. Brenn, Chronicler of Ages, happens to have a lot of health, so he's very, very capable of playing, doing some damage to cards like Rakano Outlaw or I wouldn't say Champion of Fury, but basically anything with 2 health, Brenn can kill with Xenan Initiation and still stay alive, which is a pretty beneficial effect. We can also use this on Reliquary Raider for the card draw effect, so this card actually tends to be really, really useful here, either on big endurance units and big engine units, or on the small units. It's pretty much useful on everything that we've got. Finally, we have Infinite Hourglass for the extra endurance and the surprise Curiox activation. If your opponent's playing, like, you know, some amount of permafrost, this can be a really, really big surprise attack. Not only does it give Curiox that +2/+2 buff in a board stall, but it also unpermafrosts all of your units and basically makes it so that you can defend yourself against some aggro types. If you get it out early, that's also useful as well against aggro. We have one Boar. This card is really, really useful for getting rid of piles of relics, as well as getting rid of relics behind Aegises. There is a significant amount of Aegis relic play that I have seen lately, specifically a lot of Duelist Blades, so Boar is our current relic hate of choice. It also happens to create copies of itself, which is very, very helpful for activating Curiox, because each of the copies of Boar that you create and discard also count towards Curiox's 5-spell limit. Finally, we have Accelerated Evolution. This card happens to be a really, really good Brenn activator because it is an Echo card, so we have multiple copies of it. The Endurance allows us to free up units that have Permafrost, and the Flying allows us to get engines like Jotun Feastcaller and Worldbearer Behemoth across over our blockers. So we keep about 2 of these, and then of course that means that we have 4 of them. If we can actually get these cards set up on certain targets, they can be absolute game changers. This is a fairly underused spell, and it's also a really useful spell in Brenn because Brenn really likes Echo cards because they give him a lot of extra ways to ramp and activate. Now, as with all, I would say, good Brenn decks, we don't focus too heavily on Brenn. This deck can run without him. You can use Trailmakers instead or other things like that, but he really does help out a lot here. The Seek powers allow Brenn to... You can Seek power and still play cards like Reliquary Raider. You can do a lot of other fun things like that. And then finally, like once you are actually up to the point where you are ramping, you can do just ridiculous amounts of nonsense. If Brenn sticks for too long, he will be playing like 2 to 3 of these guys at a time, which is really, really crazy. He can just generally fix your power in ways that are really, really helpful. And he draws attention in a way that is also very helpful because it means that he will often soak up a Slay or anything that is generally better aimed at your other targets, Jotun Feastcaller in particular. So if you can get Brenn to actually take some removal, then that's a useful thing that Brenn has done. Oh, we do have one other pair of tricks here. Diogo Málaga gives every unit in our deck double damage and charge as a 1-of. He's a pretty useful 4-drop all on his own, so he generally makes the cut, and if he gives every unit in our deck double damage and charge, all of our top decks are just absolutely insane. Soulfire Drake does a very similar thing. If each unit in our deck randomly gets flying or charge, then that's a pretty good chance that one of these things is going to get charged through non-accelerate means, and all of these units really, really like having charge. So we play 2 of those, and we play play one Diogo, and yeah, it's absolute shenanigans. The deck has the full Crest base. We use Fire, Time, and Primal Sigils with Seek Power and Find the Way, so that we have plenty of spells to throw into Brenn. And yeah, beyond that, I think that's the general idea of how everything fits together. So let's go ahead and play some games, and I'll show you how the deck works. Alright, we're up against Clockwork Babbage, and looks like we have a reasonable hand. 2 crests to play with. One thing that's kind of ugly here is we don't have double time, and Reliquary Raider and Sandstorm Titan both need time. I think with the crests we have a pretty good chance of picking up that time. This is a very risky hand and could actually lead to some problems, but I think it's got 4 power, I think it's got plenty of crests. If we don't end up playing Reliquary Raider and Sandstorm Titan on time, we might still be able to get some other shenanigans out, so let's go ahead and give this a shot. Okay, a Heart of the Vault, another card that I definitely want to have some time for. So let's Crest of Fury, and we're actually going to bury Heart of the Vault for the moment while we look for Time Sigils. Crest of Wisdom there is totally fine. Jotun Feastcaller. Okay, cool. So with Jotun Feastcaller, we at least have something to do on turn 5. Let's try and find something to do on turn 4. We're going to play Crest of Fury again and continue the search for time. Another Reliquary Raider, really useful card, but we are missing that time, so we are definitely going to throw stuff away until we find it. Now, Seed of Wisdom, Primal Sigil looks pretty good, and yeah, there we go. There's that Crest of Impulse. Time is the most common influence in the deck, I'm quite certain. And yeah, so it's very, very important to grab it when you can. If you find a Secret Pages or a Seek Power, that's also another time source. I'd say there was like almost a 1 in 3 chance that we would have gotten it. Okay, so now we have a Curiox, and this is a card that we can play. We don't have the full amount of power to play it yet, but I do kind of like having a 6-drop in the deck. I think what we're going to do here is we're going to go ahead and hold on to that, and... Nah, actually, let's go ahead and leave it for now, because we don't have enough spells at the moment to activate Curiox, so it's probably better to look for some of our other mid-range units, and also some of our cards that can interact with the board. My opponent's playing something in Elysian. He's got Strategize, he's got a couple of other cards available, and oh, looks like we've got 4 colors, so it's probably some sort of removal pile, or, you know, like various different types of control decks. Alright. Seed of Wisdom here gets us our Sandstorm Titan, which we can then use to just knock some heads. If this guy draws like a Slayer of Vanquish, that's really useful because that means that Jotun Feastcaller can stick. If you don't have the Accelerate, that's totally fine. Sometimes it's better to just play the cards that you got and roll with it. Alright, so what's Babbage up to? He's just leaving it alive, which is really interesting. I'm going to go ahead and attack for 5 here. Now, if he's got a Harsh Rule coming, then Jotun Feastcaller is clearly the correct play. It's possible that he's got some other shenanigans available, but if he has to Harsh Rule to kill the Sandstorm Titan and pop the Aegis, we still get a card draw of Jotun Feastcaller, which is exactly what we want right now. Ooh, Mask of Torment. So he's not even actually going to be able to do everything that he wants this turn. Alright, so now what we're going to do is we're going to just attack with both of our units. We're going to get our card draw. We find another Accelerated Evolution. That's a few too many Accelerated Evolutions for the moment, but we'll make it work. Let's go ahead and... This is going to get really tricky. I've currently got 11 damage on the field, and I'm assuming that he's going to try to do some sort of trick like Levitate into Harsh Rule or something like that. So let's play Worldbearer Behemoth just in case his trick is just to lay down a unit in front of me. Torch is also really good here. Pushing damage is going to be very important. I've actually considered putting Flame Blast in the deck just because it very frequently does generate a really sizable amount of power. So you can Flame Blast for 10 or 11. We might actually put that in at some point. Alright, a Vanquish on the Worldbearer Behemoth means he doesn't have the Harsh Rule, and that's important. Cumbre Healer, however, is going to... Oh, he's not going to use it to pop the Aegis. I was expecting he would use it to pop the Aegis. Alright, so here we'll go ahead and give Jotun Feastcaller, let's say, Endurance. Attack with both of these guys, and we actually get the double draw of Feastcaller, which is really, really good. Soulfire Drake is available as well, which is pretty cool. And he's actually taking all of the damage. So... now we gotta make some decisions. I'm gonna go ahead and play Crest of Impulse here. There's a Seek Power, which I don't think I need. Reliquary Raider doesn't really seem like anything we need to lay down, and I don't want to throw any more Accelerated Evolutions into the field, so let's just go ahead and keep playing kind of close to the vest. We've got a Torch, we've got a Soulfire Drake. If we can get him to expend basically all of his effort on killing this, then we should just be able to win.
Close your eyes.
Okay, Combra Healer number 2. He's using that to pop the Aegis, which is what we were expecting. Now he's at 7 health. So let's torch the blocker. He stole the torch with a Corrupt, so this is actually my deck. Well, let's see here. I guess what we're gonna do then is we're gonna draw 3 cards. And got Crest of Impulse there, plenty of damage. He actually could have lived for another turn there, but all the same, that looked like it worked out pretty well. Oh, that 1-0 Corrupt, man. Yeah, that last deck we faced was the Grindthorn deck from Eternal Brews Grindthorn, and you can definitely tell it's a Mask of Torment deck with just 1 Corrupt. So we've got, yeah, okay, I'm super happy to see that. Reliquary Raider plus Diogo, Málaga looks pretty good. Let's go ahead and keep this and see what we can do. Now, there are a lot of available options here. I'm gonna go ahead and say we want to play Crest of Wisdom first because that gets us the time, and if we can get enough time together we can play Reliquary Raider on time, followed by Diogo, which would be, I don't know if we want to play Diogo on 4, but if we don't have any other choices, we generally should. Okay, so Crest of Wisdom here gets us double time, and Soulfire Drake I think can stay on top since we have easily 3 red, and it's something to do on 6. Go ahead and play the... Let's play the Fire Sigil here. Follow up with the Reliquary Raider. Because I want to play the Time Sigil as the undepleted power in the 6th setting. That way I can basically just get everything out. That means that I'm not going to play Diogo this turn, but I don't really want to. My opponent's playing Feln Control, which is exactly the kind of thing where Reliquary Raider really likes to be attacking. Let's go ahead and do that attack. Nothing like free attacks against a Feln deck that's still waiting to get its like in Cold Bloods up and running. So let's go ahead and get that Crest of Fury down and see what we can do. A Torch? A Torch is extra damage. There's not that many things that Torch hits, but it is really useful to have to pop Aegises and stuff. I think that with our Accelerate and no particularly great targets for it, what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the Torch on the bottom and try and look for more mid-rangey threats. Though it's hard to turn down action against Control, like specifically because you might just draw nothing but power. Alright, so we'll play the Crest of Fury here. I could Accelerate Heart of the Vault, but I'd rather do it to something like Worldbearer Behemoth. And let's just... You know, against Feln Control, this game might actually go to 12. I'm going to hold on to Diogo. He does damage, he's pretty nasty, but I think if we just play our Time Sigil and play Heart of the Vault, we'll be already up on some shenanigans. Okay, Elf Ally to draw a spell. So this is a Scream deck of some kind. That's interesting. Let's go ahead and kill that. Hey, we got a free Brenn. And I don't think I have any objections to a free Brenn. Unanswered Reliquary Raiders definitely do a lot of shenanigans. I'm very glad this deck hasn't found, like, Haunting Screams yet. Oh no! We've disconnected or something. Something bad's happened. Spotty internets? Spotty shenanigans? We'll give it a second, and then if we can't get it, we'll reboot the client. Hey, there he goes. Go free Brenn. Alright, so the other option to play was Soulfire Drake that turn, since Soulfire Drake would activate all of the charge and flying that we need. I think I actually do kind of like that, especially against a purple-blue deck. But it was nice to actually have something to kill this Lethrai Skystrider with. Okay. Yeah, and killing the Lethrai Skystrider I think still takes precedence, because he's trying to play multiple elves here and Haunting Scream them. So if we kill that, then he won't be able to get the spells that he wants, and he'll run out of cards, basically. Oh yeah, nice and quick match. So Levitate there. There's a Boar, which is pretty cool. We can use that to kill a Zindil's Gift. do definitely want that available. Ooh, and a Curiox. Draw our Curiox. We can just discard our Find the Ways. They'll count towards Curiox anyways. And yeah, we're looking pretty good right now. This is going to be a very, very hard game for Avatar to come back from. I think he's already pretty well done. Oh, okay. Well, that gives him a little bit to play with. Xenan Initiation means that we can just kill it, so let's do that. Actually, let's do it this way. We're going to play... Can I play any undepleted power? Seed of Impulse is undepleted somehow? No, no, it's actually depleted. So Find the Way would get us something. I think it's just correct to play Soulfire Drake here and attack with these three, because that forces a block. And then we don't have to use Xenan Initiation at all. Gains 5 and prevents 6. We Crest of Wisdom to look for other power. Worldbearer Behemoth is fine, but that's the game. Pretty easy one. Alright, here we are up against Ginger Jesus, and what are we doing? We are playing Crest of Impulse, Fire Sigil. There is a Brenn here. Like, we could potentially ramp Brenn into other shenanigans. We're on the draw, we have a Crest. This sand is just on the fringe end of keepable. I think I will keep it. We use the Crest of Impulse to look for power. We'll also have opportunities to draw for power, and Brenn can potentially ramp us out of trouble. Crest of Wisdom is beautiful. Let's go ahead and grab that, and then we'll play a Brenn. We'll Crest, we'll maybe Torch.
Defend the throne!
We could Crest first. I think Brenn right here is actually really good, though, because that means that we can block this 2-1 nonsense machine. The Argentport deck is running a lot of this right now because it wants to not interact with torches and with hailstorms. I'd say a lot of the decks on the ladder right now are fairly hailstorm proof, which is why we're not running it. We're running just straight Titans instead. Alright, if he's got a Finest Hour, I think I'm okay with that. I'm also okay with just blocking here and seeing... Ooh, did we get a Crownwatch Paladin plus a Vara's Favor? Okay, yeah, we didn't technically get the Vara's Favor, but the Crownwatch Paladin is dead, and that's more than enough for me to be happy. So, throw in the Crest here. Ooh, got an undepleted power. That's enough to play Titan, Titan, and Diogo. So, yeah, I'm a pretty happy camper right now. We'll get to Torch Unseen Commando, if there is an Unseen Commando. Titan can stand in the way of most things. We will see if he gets slayed, but if he does, there's currently only the 2-1 on the board right now, so I'm not as badly chuffed up about it as I might be against other Argentport lists. This is a tricky matchup. Praxis just has some problems with Argentport with the 4 slays, 4 vanquish thing going on. Annihilate is also pretty rough. It's not always exactly what they're running, but it is certainly, you know, yeah. We're going to play Diogo here because he's also a pretty good blocker, and I want to see if I can draw off another slay. If he doesn't have the slay, okay, he's using Inquisitor's Blade there. And that's perfect, because that means that we could use Xenan Initiation on Diogo. Kill the Crownwatch Paladin. That's the kind of interaction that we're looking for, since we know that there's a lot of Aegis stuff out there. And Crest of Wisdom will look for... Feast color's really good, but I'm not up on blue. So I'm actually going to pass on that, and we're just going to use Diogo for a while. Now, the reason that we want to use Diogo first is because we're trying to draw off removal for Titan. Because Titan actually ends up being pretty critical here, because he defends against the not only Impending Doom, which is not always a card that we will see here. Crest of Fury is an extra blue source and also a reasonable setup. I don't hate it here. I do think that getting the 3rd blue is nice, and being able to like pick through your deck is also nice. We could attack for 4 here pretty easy, and we can also play Sandstorm Titan. I think I'll play Sandstorm Titan here, and I might even block with Sandstorm Titan, seeing as we have a pretty sick Warcry going on. If he's got more Slay, he's got more Slay. He's going to use Valkyrie Enforcer to silence the Titan, which makes the Titan the obvious blocker. And Auric Interrogator is his last card. So he's either going to push with Valkyrie Enforcer or he's going to try and buff Auric Interrogator. I'm kind of actually more worried about Valkyrie Enforcer, but we have 2 Curioxes, so let's just go ahead and torch the Auric Interrogator before it gets big. And then we can play, oh, well, we can play Heart of the Vault off the top, amongst other things. Attacking for 5 here seems pretty reasonable, since we'll have a Heart of the Vault to block with, and this guy is just a random vanilla. If we actually get the double block, then Heart of the Vault will clear the board. And if we get a single block, well, we get the 4/4 out of the way, and that has a Warcry on it that I don't really want to see. So, yeah, Heart of the Vault here, deal 2 damage to face. Now we're looking pretty good on just general amounts of stuff. I see a Seek Power, that's not really a helpful card, but Time Sigil means that we can activate the double damage and just get some real shenanigans going. Crest of Vengeance here. Now my opponent has to either kill Diogo or Heart of the Vault to get any amount of attacks through. And it's really nice if he doesn't kill Diogo here. Oh, goodness. Alright, it's time for the power solo.
At last.
Okay. Let's just assume that our double damage charge is really going to serve us here, and we're going to attack with everything. That's 8, 6, and 5. That's going to force some blocks. Diogo gets knocked out. No big surprises there. But now I've got who knows what with double damage and charge on top of my deck. It should be absolutely disgusting. And yep, there we go. The power solo. And that's 3 games. I think that's probably enough for the recording session. And yeah, no, pretty crazy stuff. That was a lot of fun. Alright, that's it for tonight's brew, guys. Here's a alternative version of the deck that we are theory crafting at the moment, where we, instead of going for blue and the card draw elements of Curiox and Jotun Feastcaller, we instead try to establish board dominance with cards like Shadowlands Tyrant, Argenport Ringmaster, and World Joiner, which is just delightful amounts of fun. This one focuses a little bit heavier on Xenan Initiation, and we use the Dark Returns to get back those engine cards and basically just redo the effect on them over and over and over again. Shadowlands Tyrants in particular can really stabilize against aggro decks, so yeah, give this one a try if you want to find something a little bit different and play around with some sort of slightly off ideas. The World Joiner, of course, is not necessary. It's just in there for fun times. But yeah, you know, whatever you're feeling like ramping with, I guess. There's also the potential to bring in other cards like infiltrate cards. I wouldn't say that Beast Caller is such a good idea here. I did consider it for the deck, but nonetheless, it is something that can definitely do some pretty cool stuff. So yeah, I hopefully you guys found some cool things to do with a very unusual uncommon that you may not have done anything with before, and I wish you good games. I hope you guys have a lot of fun with your Brenn Brews over the next week, and we'll be back with more of them this week, so stay tuned. See you next time, and feel free to like or subscribe. Cheers. Bye.